Then, from 1905 to 1923, another earthquake in Japan killed 142,000 people. 23 to 48, within another 25 years, the one in Soviet Union killed 110,000 people. From 48 to 2004, the tsunami in the Indian Ocean, greatest killer, 295,600 people were killed just about years ago. And 2006, the earthquake in Pakistan, part of Kashmir, 79,000. And next to that, it's in 2010 in Haiti, killed 240,000 people. These are major earthquakes. And when Christ said there will be earthquakes in diverse places, he meant the frequency of these were going up. We use a map to locate the earthquake strata of the world. Haiti has no such strata at all. There is only a current zone there which causes the hurricanes and the winds to twist around, but no indication of an earthquake strata. The zone doesn't at all clearly indicate that there is going to be an earthquake. But Christ foretold there will be earthquakes in diverse places. Are we listening, and are these things trying to tell us that the Lord is going to come soon? And the prophet Isaiah is telling, go and tell the towns of Judah that their God is coming. Pick up the stones and clear off it. When we saw the pictures in Haiti, we saw the foundation stones that just come out everywhere. And it was a message to me. Clear the stones, pave the roads, the Lord is coming. How often are we burdened with the desire that those who do not know about the soon return need to come to the knowledge of a saving grace? Are we more comfortable in what we are earning? Are we more comfortable in the comfort zones in which we live today? Do we have a burden for those people who do not know about Jesus coming to take them home? My dear brothers and sisters, I want to share this time with each one of us, reminding ourselves of the commission that God has given to each one of us. In Siliguri, where I just mentioned a few minutes ago, there was a little school. I was instrumental in putting up some buildings there almost 25 years ago. And today that school has grown into a large boarding school. There are more than 1,000 or 2,000 students there. There were 750 students in the so-called orphanage. People coming in from different parts of West Bengal. People who have no means of getting an Adventist education. But there was a system in place, and these children are studying and knowing that Jesus is coming soon. We spent 2 Sabbaths ago there. It was one of those Sabbaths that will remain in our heart. And we asked them how many of these children are Christians. And they said only 10%. 90% of them were non-Christians, Hindus. But those children knew that the Jesus was coming soon. And they sang and they worshipped with us so beautifully well. And those memories will be with us till the end. And the message that I want to underline this evening is, you and I have a part to do this work. And we are doing. We are doing. That's the reason why the message has been going to all the places in the world. And the burden this evening is, go and tell the towns of Judah that their God is coming. Anthony Theodore was a cobbler. He lived in a little obscure village in Turkey, just below Mount Ararat, where the ark had gone and settled down. Life was difficult in the 1850s for Anthony. He had his parents to take care of. his sisters. Father was getting old, and the cobbler had to keep working day and night to fend for his little family. He soon was tired with the difficult situations of the life that he was leading, and he longed for the God whom he looked up at those mountains, the God who took care of the ark. Did he forget Anthony? This was his plea day in and day out. He was born into a Greek Orthodox family. Turkey, once upon a time, was managed by Rome and also by the Turks. So Constantinople, or today's Istanbul, was the capital for Rome and as well as for Turkey. When the Turks took over Istanbul or Constantinople, they destroyed all the churches there. But there was one church called the Hagia Sophia, which is one of the outstanding buildings of the world, was never touched because it was a place of worship. It was Anthony's desire to go and worship there. But Constantinople was quite a distance. When he went to Constantinople, one day, he knew that there was an American consulate in that city, and they were inviting people to write down their names so that their names could be listed to immigrate to the United States sometime. So Theodore Anthony went and registered himself, and he thought a time would come when his lifestyle would be much better. He had heard of the life in America, and he thought when this opportunity opened up to him, he would go and live a better life and take care of his family in a better fashion. So he went and registered himself in the United States Embassy in Constantinople. He returned home, started waiting when his time would come. At that time, he was just past 21 or 22. When he came back, he had to face reality. Again, he had to open his cobbler shop, mend shoes, put on soles for new uppers, go from village to village, try to make a living, take care of his family. 28 years he lived like that. After 28 years, when he was almost 49 years old, he got a letter from the American embassy that his name had been passed on for immigration to the United States. His joys knew no bound. He had collected lira after lira, put it in a savings box to make sure that he had enough to pay for his passage to the United States. Finally, the day arrived when he booked his passage, and he sailed from Constantinople to San Jose, California as an immigrant, 49 years old. He packed his tools in a probably little trunk that he had, and in a few months' time, he found himself in a Greek-speaking community in San Jose. He had some friends who probably knew the same language, and they helped him out, as many of our people here help one another when we find ourselves coming into this country new.